I have a little bit of a different video for you this week. This week is going to be a story that happened to me this week when I was showing a property. I want you to know that being a realtor isn't always sunshine and rainbows. So stick with me. You're going to want to listen up to this story about real life scenario that happened to me as a realtor this week. Stick with me. I'm Nick Doherty from Forest Hill Real Estate, and let's get into that story right now. As I mentioned, being a realtor isn't always sunshine and rainbows like it shows on some of the TV shows like Selling Sunset. If you've ever seen that show, looks like it's all glit and glam. It's not always the case. Sometimes when you're out there showing properties or listing properties, funny things can happen or certain things can happen. In this case, this week, I was showing a property and I just happened to open the door. I did the lockbox, unlocked it, opened the door, propped the glass sliding door open, and when I looked up, it looked like there was a swarm of bees coming after me. I got stung in the back. I run away. I'm sitting there with my clients, or standing there with my clients going, well, how are we gonna get into the property? So I had unlocked the door. So we all ran in, shut the door, we look at the property, but the whole time I was in the property, I'm going, how are we going to get outside? How am I going to lock the door, stick the key into the lockbox, and shut the glass door that's propped open? How am I going to do that without getting stung? I mean, there was a pile of bees right above in a light fixture above the unit that we were going to look at, the townhouse that we were going to look at. So the whole time I could not stop thinking about the bees, and I had just been stung, so that's all I had on my mind was, how am I gonna get out of this house without being stung by more bees? So regardless, my clients, we open the door, they run out, they're out, and I'm still in the house. I'm going, okay. I'm looking out the front door window and I'm looking up at the nest. I can see all the bees swarming around, and I'm going, how am I gonna do this? So I open the door, I put the key in, I lock the door, and they're starting to swarm. I run away. So now the key is inside the door, but I still don't have the key into the lockbox, and I haven't shut the glass sliding door. I'm going, what am I gonna do here? I don't wanna get stung again. There's bees everywhere, and the key is still in the door. And actually the light, I had left the light on in the front, so I hadn't even shut the light off because all I could think about was the bees. So I start knocking on all the neighbors' door. First couple, nobody answers, and finally a woman answers the door, and I'm like, hey, you know, I'm showing this property down the way, this townhouse. Do you have any wasp spray or bee spray or anything that I can spray them? Because I got to get the key out of the door. And I'm explaining the story to her. Regardless, she doesn't have any wasp spray. She has some bug or fly spray. So I'm like, let me see if this works. So I go over to the property. I start spraying the bees and running away, and it's not working. I'm trying this for about 5 minutes. I'm like, okay, it's not dissipating. You know, the key's still in the front door. What am I gonna do? I go back to the woman. I'm like, you know, it's not gonna work. Who is the property manager here? Who can I speak to that might have some hornet spray or bug spray? She provides me with the gentleman's contact information. I go over to his unit, knock on the door. He's eating supper. I'm like, you know, I apologize for interrupting your supper. So I explain the story to him. I say the keys are in the front door and there's wasps everywhere. I can't get the keys out. The light's on. I'm explaining the whole story. At this point, I'm like a bit hyper about the story because I just want to get the keys out. I want to, you know, get these bees out of here, shut the light off so I can actually go home at this point because it was at the end of the day. And the gentleman says, yeah, actually we do have hornet spray. We go over and get the hornet spray. He comes over. By this time, there's a few other neighbors looking at the nest. Everybody's sitting there watching the nest. Regardless, we ended up having the property manager, he sprayed the nest, he dissipated some of the bees. Although they were still buzzing around, he was gonna have to go back later that night to actually, you know, go back and respray the nest. He was able to get the key out and put it into the lockbox. I phoned the other realtor, let her know what was going on, that there was a bee's nest and it might not be good for, you know, showings coming up. And maybe this has prevented people from actually showing the property beforehand, and to let her know about this situation. But this is one of these situations that does come up. This isn't the first time something like this has come up. This is common throughout real estate, and I'm sure there's a lot of other realtors that have funny stories in similar situations that happened, but I wanted to share this story with you because I thought it was a funny one, and I have that bee sting in my back, and my wife's been spraying it this week with Benadryl because my back has been so itchy from this bee sting. So this is a little bit of a different video for you. I hope you enjoyed a funny story, or actually hearing what actually happens when you're showing and selling properties as a real estate agent. Stay tuned next week as I get into another tip or trick about real estate, or a funny story about real estate, what might happen to you while you're out there. Until then, stay healthy, stay safe, and I will see you next week.